Hello and welcome to AbleMaker. My name's Chris. If we haven't met before, I'm so glad to meet you. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to see what we have going on here. I have an idea in my head for a new wheelchair costume. I'm going to try and get it down on paper and translate it to you. I have no idea what I'm doing. Come on, let's figure it out together. Hello, and I'm so glad you're with me today. I had an idea for a wheelchair build costume for my son, and I wanted to just sit down and include you on my brainstorming process of what I'm thinking about building. It's been rolling around in my mind, so I'll try to get it on paper to share with you. What I'd like you to do is, if you have ideas or thoughts, or it gives you inspiration, please let's have dialogue either down in the comments. That's probably the easiest place to do it. You can do that, or email me, or whatever you need to do. But I'd really love to get input from the general community that's watching these videos that has some knowledge, some inspiration, some thoughts that may make this a better build. So won't you join me as we get started on figuring this out? I'd like to start with a sketching just to show you that when I'm doing this stuff, I'm not coming up with these great designs off the bat. I'm really not a good artist. So these rough sketches are just to show you and maybe inspire you or encourage you to say, hey, you don't need to be an artist. You don't have to have all these, art skills or be crafty to do this stuff. So I'll be using a roll of tape to make a circle. Stuff like that. Use what you have at your disposal to get your concepts down and at least give you a guide. So let's take a look at what we can do and we'll go from there. So I'm going to start with this, and I don't know if Sharpie's going to be better or pencil. We may be doing both, but I'll start with a Sharpie here. So I'm just going to do this and draw a circle. Kind of gives you an idea of what his wheelchair would look like. It's going to have a little, frame that comes down here with a little circle that has a back that comes up and the handlebars that come out. Rough shapes, but you get what I'm going for. So we'll go ahead and we'll just leave that one and come back to it later. Alright, so we've got our basic wheelchair form. What I'm thinking is in this wheelchair here, each side's going to be different. So on one side, I'm going to actually have an X-wing. So it's going to be, that fighter that, how does it look? It's kind of, that shape. Right? As you're looking down, so the cockpit's here and R2-D2 sits here. So that X-wing would actually lay just like that right over inside. So I guess we got some rockets over here too that would happen. So we kind of lay right in like that. Probably much bigger. See? Why we use pencil? So if we just say, here's that X-wing. And what I found for this, because it's so detailed, I thought a few things. But for that X-wing, I actually found a model that I'll probably assemble and just be able to go in. The dimensions of these wheels here, that's about 18 inches, and that's actually the inside diameter. If you haven't seen the BB-8 wheelchair build, or the BB-8 costume I made for my son's wheelchair, I'll throw some links or put a card at the end of the video so you can go watch that one. But that will give you some idea of the domes and things I talk about, because I already made them once. So if I reference that, it's another video that I explained that whole build. So on one side I'll have the X-wing, and the concept is that will rotate end over end with the wheel. We'll take the other side. So here's our rough wheelchair again. So on the other side we have the Death Star. So this will actually be a sphere that's here. the insert. So we'll actually try and do that as the Death Star. So it'll just be a sphere that's there. So that'll be on the other side. So one side we have this X-Wing, the other side we have a Death Star. The concept is when the X-Wing rotates, every 5 to 10 rotations, it'll align and it'll actually shoot an LED strip that goes up the handlebars and then it continues down the other side of the handlebars and actually explodes this Death Star. What I'd like to do is take this Death Star and divide it into chunks, just roughly, into different sections, and actually have solenoids that explode that Death Star out. So all of this would be controlled by an Arduino controller. Actually, I'm thinking 2 Arduino controllers. I think I can mount one that controls the counter for when the X-Wing is rotating and all the LED lights that shoot across. So I'll have that, and I can have that mounted underneath the seat of the chair, underneath the frame, and I'll mount a sensor on, underneath the frame that looks at this wheel, and then have like a piece of reflective tape or whatever I need, so that every 5 or 10 rotations, fire it off again. The Death Star will probably need its own controller just because of a proximity thing, and this is one of the biggest things I need to figure out, is interfacing those 2 controllers wirelessly. Whether that's an RF signal, that I don't know how well that would work with the metal of the chair. It may work fine, but if there was some way we could interface those fairly conveniently, that'd be great. So it's something I haven't messed with Arduino before, so I'm going to have to learn that. I know Raspberry Pi may be another solution to look into, but that's really the rough concept, is Death Star on one side, X-Wing on the other. This will be a 3-dimensional dome, similar to what I did for the base wheels on the BB-8 wheelchair build. One thing I'd like to do for the Death Star is put a Lazy Susan on that, so that one side of the Lazy Susan is mounted to the wheel and the other side is mounted to the Death Star. So as the chair is moving, the Death Star doesn't actually rotate. It may wobble a little bit. We'll put some weight or something in that bottom end so that it'll just kind of float there. But inside there, I'd probably need to mount another Arduino controller just to be able to control that, to control the explosion. I'll probably need a secondary power supply to control the solenoids, or however I'm making those pieces explode. And I'd also like to have a light source underneath there. I'm thinking either maybe if I could find a small video light that would shine bright enough but could be triggered, and I don't know if they have one that's triggered, or I do the controller with a series of LED strip lights and fire those same way I did coming across the handlebar. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what I'm thinking of for the basic part of the chair. A couple of other things, I'd probably want to have a couple of buttons or triggers that I can push to be able to reset those controllers. The other one is maybe have a next pass trigger. So if I hit that button on the next rotation, the LEDs will fire and the sequence will happen. So thinking about having those as well. For the materials for this build, I mentioned the Lazy Susan. I'll probably just be a purchase that I get. The X-Wing will probably just be the kit that I have, that's 17 inches, so it should fit in there. I'll probably do a build just on that. For the Death Star, I will probably do epoxy resin. If you have experience with epoxy, with resins, with forms, molds, whatever, let me know. Going forward, I'll probably do a video of building that X-Wing, maybe just a time-lapse type video where it's just me putting it together. It may be something other people want to see how that goes together and how it looks in the end, and we can kind of do a test fit in the wheels. Then I'll probably also do some tests for how this epoxy is going to work, pouring it over a dome to see what's going to work before I do a big dome, probably do something smaller. I think that pretty much does it for the review of this build. Please, if you have any ideas or thoughts, comment below. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to get to know you, and I'd love for you to be a part of this build. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me, to watch what's going on, and to be a part of this build. There's so much going on in life. I encourage you to take time to inspire, to encourage, to uplift someone that you encounter today. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.